In this video, we are going to talk about point of view and different kinds of point of view. This is important for those students who are studying stylistics and literature because this is one of the most important elements of any novel. Okay, we are going to look into different definitions of point of view. Point of view describes the person from whom the events of the story is told. First of all, it lets us know about the person who is describing or who is telling us about the story. It is the writer's way of deciding who is telling the story to whom. Who is going to tell the story? It actually depends upon the writer, and what person or what point of view is going to use. It actually depends upon that. Establishing a clear point of view is important because it dictates how your reader interprets characters, events, and other important details. Almost all the details of the story and how do the readers or how readers are going to associate with different characters and events is also dependent upon point of view. It is a vantage point from which a writer tells a story. It is the angle of considering things because we have different angles and different point of views allows different things to different narrators. So we need to know about these things. A writer tells a story through a voice of narrator. A narrator could be an outside observer or he could be a character in the story, and it also depends upon point of view. Everything we learn about the character, events, and places depends upon the narrator's point of view, and there are three kinds of it. Other than that, if we just look at significance, point of view is an integral tool of description in the author's hands to portray personal emotions or characters' feeling about an experience or situation. According to any point of view, for example, if there is a first person point of view, how would he portray the emotions and feelings of any character? If it is second or third person point of view or subtype of third person or subtype of first person point of view, so then how would how would he or she going to interpret or portray personal emotions or characters feeling? The choice of the point of view from which to narrate a story greatly affects both the reader's experience of the story and the type of information the author is able to impart to the readers. Now he is giving, or I'm giving some simple examples. After that we are going to discuss this in detail. As we see, first person point of view creates a greater intimacy between the reader and the story, while third person point of view allows the author to add much more complexity to the plot and development of different characters that one character wouldn't be able to perceive on his or her own. So in first person point of view, we basically have one basic character about whom the narrator of the story tells us a lot. So there is going to be some kind of intimacy between the reader and the story, or between that character. While in third person point of view, there is much more complexity. Therefore, point of view has a greater amount of significance in every piece of literature. The relative popularities of different points of views has changed over the centuries, as like first person point of view wasn't used before 20th century, but now it is more preferred because it deals with the psychology of the person. Before we discuss or talk about point of view or types of one, we need to see that it is closely related with the concept of a narrator. The narrator of a story can be a participant in the story. That means he could be a character in any part of a plot, or he could be a non-participant as well. The point of view in a story refers to the position of the narrator in relation to the story. For example, if the narrator is a part, then it is probable that the point of view would be a first person, or as the narrator is witnessing and interacting with the events and the different characters. And if the narrator is a non-participant, then it is show that the point of view would be in the third person. So both of these concepts are almost related. Choosing a point of view, writers don't necessarily have to choose just one part, and they are likely to switch from one point of view and from one narrative to any other narrative. Okay, let us talk about first person point of view. In first person point of view writing, a character tells the story from his or her own perspective by using first person By choosing this point of view, the writer can deeply explore the character's personality through his or her own words that reveal thought, feelings, and reactions. So if we are going to use third person point of view, this means that a character is going to tell the story from his perspective by using first person pronoun. Other than that, we can have in detail analysis or in detail information about any character, because we can have info about his thoughts, info about his feelings, info about his reactions to any event, or how does he behave in any situation. So when read well, the readers feels a sense readers when the reader feels, this shouldn't be used, the readers feel a sense of connection to the character and becomes deeply interested and become deeply interested in the plot of the story. Now there is an unreliable narrator, and this is a concept in the first person. Characters in the stories are often flawed in their reasoning and understanding. The first person narrators are sometimes unreliable in their interpretation, because the first person narrator is going to interpret the story according to his, or is going to present the story according to his own perspective. His opinions, his mindset, his feelings would be just restricted to himself. So it is also called as unreliable narrator. In first person point of view, we have two basic types. First person central, in which the protagonist is the basic character of the story, or you could say the narrator is the protagonist as well. So the narrator who is narrating the story is also the protagonist or the main character of the story. For example, To Kill a Mockingbird, Scout is both the main character and the narrator. And the other example is of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, as Jane says, "I could not unlove him now merely because I found that he has ceased to notice me." So over here, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, again the narrator is the protagonist of the story, and likewise in this novel as well. So first person peripheral, the narrator is telling the story of the protagonist from a close by. So in this, the narrator is not actually the protagonist of the story. The narrator is a separate character and a protagonist is a different character. As we have F. Scofi's Gal, the Great Gatsby. The story of Gatsby is told not by Gatsby himself, but a narrator named Nick, who is a friend and neighbor of Gatsby. Now here we have some examples of first person point of view. First of all, we have example of Hamlet. The protagonist explains the feeling of melancholy that afflicts him after his father. "I have afflicted, but wherefore I know not." So if you have just noticed the usage of pronoun. This is one of the best first person point of view example. The use of first person in this quotation gives us glimpse into the inner feelings and frustration of Hamlet. So I have told you earlier, first person point of view is famous for conveying feelings and inner psychology of any person. "I gazed and gazed, but little thought what well the show to me had brought." Now this first person point of view has also been used by William Wordsworth in his poem Daffodils, and it is again referring to his subjective feelings, because these feelings can vary from person to person. Other than this, now we have example of peripheral first person point of view. I have already referred to this Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Of course, Nick is the narrator of the story, but Gatsby is the protagonist of the story of Gatsby is narrated by the narrator. If you just see, "When I came back from the East last autumn, I felt that I wanted the world to be in uniform and at a sort of moral attention forever. I wanted no more righteous excursions with privileged glimpses into the human heart. Only Gatsby, the man who gives his name to his book, was exempt from my reaction. Gatsby, who represented everything for which I have an unaffected scorn." So if you just notice this I has been used for any other character, and he is going to he's going to tell us about the story or tell us about the character that is named Gatsby. Now moving on to second person point of view. In second person point of view writing, the writer uses second person pronoun, and he puts the reader, or he or she puts the reader in the horse seat. Why? Because we feel that as if the character is talking to us, and we need to be involved in that conversation. This method is difficult to sustain, and that is why it is less found in the stories. As a writer, you want your reader to be engrossed, engaged, and enthralled. There is a time and place for seconds such as non-fiction advertising and immersive stories, but we need to know that it is the most challenging and least often used point of view in fiction. Now, if we just see this example, Italo Calvino, if on a winter's night a traveler, this has been written by Italo Calvino and this passage has been taken from that. You are about to begin reading Italo Calvino's new novel. If on a winter's night a traveler, relax, concentrate, dispel every other thought. So as we feel that as the writer Calvino is directly talking to me, are directly talking to the reader who is reading this novel, and he wants that we should relax, we should concentrate, and we should leave every other thought. Let the world around you fade. Best to close the door. The TV is always on in the next room. Tell the others right way away. No, I don't want to watch TV. Why? Because he wants us, we wants our complete attention restricted to that novel. So other than that, now we have third person point of view, as we have just three basic kind, first, second and third person, but we have some subtypes as were in the first person. Now we have some subtypes in the third person point of view as well. But before that, we should discuss what is third person point of view. In third person point of view writing, the author narrates the story from outside perspective, as he's an observer and looking from outside, and you could say that he's a godlike figure who is looking to different characters and referring to different characters by names or by using these pronoun he, she and they. The narrator has the ability to know everything. This point of view allows for the greatest flexibility and also creates the most complexity. Why? Because we are going to refer to number of characters, and this point of view could be used to refer to number of characters, and we can present them in a limited way as well. The possibilities are endless in third person. The writer is not limited by the thoughts, observations or movements of a single character, which gives them the ability to build more complex characters and plots. This point of view also allows the narrator to limit his or her subjectivity, because in first person point of view the narrator could be the character as well. So if he was the character, then it is sure that he is going to be subjective, as in daffodils, or you could say Hamlet. But if the narrator is an outside observer, then his subjectivity could be limited. Now, first type of for third person point of view is third person omniscient or multiple omniscient. It is also called like that. In third person omniscient point of view, the narrator has an all-knowing and all-seeing perspective, that he knows everything about the character, and he could enter the mind of the character. He could read their, or he or she could read their thoughts as well. With this point of view, the narrator knows everything there is to know about everyone in the story, and is able explicitly communicate this knowledge to the reader, and you could say that in a godlike intuition. The narrator relates the thoughts and feelings of, for example, this novel by Charles Dickens is written in third person omniscient or multiple omniscient. Then there is third person limited or selective omniscient. In this, the narrator has only access to some limited characters, or feelings or thoughts and actions or behaviors of some particular characters, and not all the characters. And this perspective allows the narrators to present an insider's view of a certain character or characters, while also making judgments on the character's thoughts or actions. Through this point of view, the writer can use what the reader doesn't know to build suspense. Lastly, we have third person objective or dramatic. The narrator reveals only outward actions, because it is tough to enter the mind of any character. So the narrator is going to just observe the outward actions and outward events and then going to comment on that. The narrator does not provide any commentary about the characters. This technique is almost like a video camera. What just we observe, we tell the people, or you could say we just have a limited commentary, not in detail, like a video camera recording what happens without judgment and allowing the readers to make their own judgment as well. That is why it is also called as camera view. We have unreliable narrator in first person, but we have camera view in third person objective point of view. Now we have some examples of third person point. Pride and Prejudice by Jane. When Jane and Elizabeth were alone, the former, who had been cautious in her praise of Mr. Bingley before, expressed to her sister how very much she admired him. "He is just what a young man ought to be," said she. sensible, good humor, lively. No, if you just read these lines, you would find out these lines demonstrate a fine use of third person point of view. The passage shows the reader two different ways of using third. Jane Austen first presents two leading characters from the third person point of views, as we have seen. Here, Jane Austen, she has represented two characters from the third person point of view, and after that shows that the two characters are talking about Bingley from their own. Now they have started to talk about any other character from third person. This can be a good example of dual third person point of view. Now, I think so it would be clear to you, and if you have any question and query, you can type in the comment box. But for that, you have to like and subscribe our channel. And in this video, we have talked about what is point of view, significance of point of view, who is a narrator, and what is the difference between point of view and narrator. Then we discuss different kinds of point of view. That's all for today. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.